2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions.
Remarks, the gentleman from South Carolina, I have very strong disagreement with a lot of the statements that Representative Omar has made. We've covered most of them. That some people did something is the one that really sticks in my craw pretty strongly. Raises a whole lot of flags for me. I think there are significant amount of justifications to raise.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberty.
The House floor erupted when Representative Ilhan Omar's comments faced heavy criticism. Lawmakers accused her of breaking her oath of office and putting Somalia's interests ahead of America's. Many saw her remarks as unpatriotic and even treasonous, leading to a heated debate in Congress over her loyalty. During a tense session, representatives from South Carolina strongly condemned her earlier "some people did something" comment about 9/11. They said it showed disrespect for the tragedy and the people who lost their lives. Critics argued the phrase downplayed the event's seriousness and questioned where her true loyalties lie. That moment still follows Omar and fuels ongoing calls for accountability.
Recognition.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A.1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows.
Recognized.
Censuring Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Whereas elected members of Congress take an oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the United States without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar took an oath of allegiance to the United States upon becoming a citizen, declaring, "I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen."
Tensions rose even higher when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Chip Roy took the floor, giving one of the most intense speeches Congress had seen in years. They didn't just disagree with Omar, they portrayed her as a danger to America's values and security. Speaking passionately, they called for her to be formally censured, saying her actions showed she was working against the country she had promised to protect. The chamber went quiet as Greene introduced her resolution to censure Omar. It accused Omar of breaking her oath of office, pointing to her naturalization pledge where she swore to give up loyalty to any foreign nation. Greene even read from George Washington's farewell address, warning about false patriotism and foreign influence. This historical reference strengthened her argument, framing Omar's behavior not as a simple mistake, but as a betrayal of America's core principles.
Whereas on January 27, 2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions. Whereas Representative Omar assured the Somalians she spoke to, the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. Whereas Representative Omar continued.
The resolution pointed to Omar's January 2024 speech in Minneapolis, where she allegedly told Somali Americans that the U.S. government would act based on their interests. Greene claimed this showed Omar was behaving like a foreign agent, using her position to protect Somalia's waters and political influence from inside the U.S. government. The accusation shocked many and sparked intense debate about the limits of free speech, foreign loyalty, and whether her remarks truly warranted such a major punishment. After Greene spoke, Chip Roy followed with equal passion. He reminded Congress of earlier moments when loyalty to politics clashed with loyalty to America, mentioning past Senate fights over judicial nominees and the controversial nuclear option. Roy said Omar's case wasn't just about one politician, but part of a growing pattern that threatens the country's constitutional balance. His fiery tone made it clear how seriously he viewed the situation.
For as long as I am in U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing I am here to protect the interest of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. Whereas George Washington warned in his farewell address of 1796 to guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism, and further declared citizens by birth or choice of a common country, that country has a right to concentrate your affections. The name of American...
Omar's critics portrayed her as someone who repeatedly goes against American values while supporting radical ideas. They highlighted her voting record, claiming she opposed border security, backed lenient crime policies, and supported globalist agendas that weakened U.S. independence. Greene emphasized this point, saying Omar's priorities were disconnected from the concerns of ordinary Americans. Her words resonated with conservatives who have long seen Omar as one of Washington's most divisive figures. The speeches went beyond normal politics. They became a rallying call for America first. Conservatives. Greene and Roy framed the issue as a clear choice: patriotism or betrayal, defending the Constitution or siding with foreign interests. Their stance energized Republicans, independents, and even some Democrats frustrated by Omar's ongoing controversies. For many, this marked a turning point, a moment when politicians could no longer rely on political correctness, but had to prove where their true loyalty lies.
Belongs to you in your national capacity must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. Whereas these statements by Representative Omar clearly violate the oath she took as an elected member of Congress to defend and protect the United States Constitution. Whereas Representative Omar has exhibited the treasonous tendencies George Washington warned about, and her actions must be condemned by all members of Congress who adhere to the oath they took upon assuming office.
Outside Washington, Omar's political future now seems more uncertain than ever. Reports say that even people in her own district are starting to turn against her, questioning if she still represents their values. The backlash has become so intense that some commentators are calling it the possible end of her time in Congress. Greene and Roy's passionate confrontation may have been the final push that made many voters rethink their support. The pressure is growing, and Omar now faces one of the hardest political battles of her career. But this fight wasn't just about her. It became a bigger debate about America's direction. Greene and Roy presented their speeches as a rallying call for patriots, saying that leaders who reject American values will be held accountable. Whether Omar manages to stay in office or not, their message was clear. Congress will no longer accept divided loyalty. For conservatives, this wasn't just a censure. It was a show of strength and the start of a new political chapter in Washington.
And whereas by openly admitting her efforts to advance Somalia's interest, using her position as a United States representative, Representative Omar has revealed herself to be a foreign agent acting on behalf of a foreign government. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee of the Budget and the Committee on Education and the Workforce.
Gentleman from Texas recognized.
Appreciate the chairman.
Days, the debate continued. Supporters of the censure resolution said this issue wasn't about party politics. It was about protecting America from divided loyalty. They argued that Omar's own comments showed she was putting Somalia's interests ahead of America's, which they called unacceptable for a U.S. lawmaker. The tension in the chamber rose as Republican leaders insisted that the oath of office must carry real meaning. If it didn't, they warned, public trust in Congress would crumble. Greene's fiery speech wasn't just about Omar, it was about setting a standard for all future lawmakers. She argued that no one can serve both foreign and American interests, and that every representative must put the Constitution first. By linking Omar's alleged promises to Somali Americans with her voting record in Congress, Greene painted the issue as a threat to national security. Her words were aimed at voters who already believe Washington has lost touch with its values. Roy built on that energy, reminding everyone that Congress has faced moments like this before, times when the country had to choose between loyalty and compromise.
I do associate myself with the remarks of the gentleman from Kentucky, but also the gentleman from South Carolina, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, the gentlelady, all the remarks that we've been talking about over here. And I appreciate the spirit of the remarks from the gentleman from Colorado. And would note that we're here for a very obvious reason. The door was opened, and now we're dealing with that. And the door shouldn't have been opened. I'm reminded when I was in the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2005, and Miguel Estrada was being filibustered by the Democrat majority at the time. And we know why. We know this because a memo that said very specifically that he was being filibustered because he was an Hispanic conservative was found, but then shoved aside. We couldn't talk about it because it was found on a server, and they said, we shouldn't get it. There's a whole lot of backstory on that. But there was a lot of drama around that. There were 7 judges being held up: Priscilla Owen, Janice Rogers Brown, because she's black. That was all happening. We just sweep that aside. And you fast forward, and Bill Frist was being pressured to deploy the nuclear option.
He explained how past decisions, such as the Senate's use of the nuclear option, had permanently changed American politics. In his view, Omar's case was another major turning point, one that would reveal whether lawmakers had the courage to uphold accountability. Roy presented his message as bipartisan, urging both parties to take the matter seriously instead of treating it as political drama. Throughout the debate, Omar's most controversial remarks were brought up again. Critics focused on her alleged statement that the U.S. would act according to Somalia's wishes, calling it clear evidence of foreign influence. They also pointed to her promise to protect Somalia's waters and interests, arguing that this went far beyond acceptable free speech for an American lawmaker. Clip 8 Greene and Roy argued that Omar's statements were not accidental. They revealed her true intentions. By repeatedly quoting her own words, they drove home the message that she could no longer be trusted with public office. The debate struck at the core of what it means to be American. Greene said that whether a person is American by birth or by choice, their loyalty must be to one country only. She referenced George Washington's farewell address, warning about the dangers of divided loyalty. This historical link gave her speech moral weight, framing the censure as an act of national defense, not politics. Omar's supporters pushed back, saying her comments were taken out of context and that political speech should not lead to punishment. But Greene and Roy rejected that defense, claiming this wasn't about free speech,